Well, that is it for GitHub for Web Designers. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and I hope that you're really excited to get started using GitHub and working with your team members and creating all of these really cool public projects. There are a couple of resources that I want to leave you guys before I go, and one of them is this repo itself. So if you go to github.com/JamesWillWebb, you'll see a list of my repositories, and one of them would be this one, the GitHub for Web Designers. And if you scroll through this, it is all the files that we've been working on in their finished states, as well as glossary, reference, resources, all those things, as well as the exercise files themselves. So you can click on the exercise files and download them. You can clone this in your desktop if you want to play around with it. You can download it as a zip file. You can fork it. Don't issue me pull requests because well, you could if you want to. I'll take a look at them. But anyway, if you want to add some stuff to it, feel free to. This is a public repo. You can do with it what you want. All right. If I go to the companion reference site for this, these are the files that you guys were working on a little bit earlier. In the first page here, which is the concepts page, in addition to the welcome, I have all this stuff that I learned as I was learning Git and GitHub. And I really like categorizing all those little moments where the light bulb goes off above your head. So I've got some advice, basically, and some concepts that I found very critical to my understanding of GitHub. So read through those. I also have a reference, which is a very quick Git reference, and it's going to show you guys some of the terminal commands that you can use to get things done within Git if you're going to work in the terminal. And it goes a little beyond a lot of the commands that we were doing in the chapter on Git Basics. So there's a little bit more information here that you can read through. There's a glossary of terms. You know that because you probably worked on that during the course. And then finally, I have some additional resources, and I want to go over these a little bit. There were 2 online training experiences that absolutely made understanding Git so much easier for me. The first one I want to mention is the Git Essential Training course that Kevin Skoglund did on lynda.com. And you can click, there's a link that goes right to it. You're already a member because you're watching this. This is fantastic. It goes into Git in a lot more detail than I was able to go through it into one chapter. So I highly recommend maybe even starting here. The second is the Pro Git book by Scott Chacon. Again, I hope I'm not mispronouncing his name. This is actually found on the Git homepage as well. If you go there and you go to documentation, you'll find the book. This is the actual book that you can buy from Amazon. It's the online version of it. It's all there. It's a fantastic read. I admit I have read the entire thing. And by reading it and going through it and typing in all the commands in my own terminal window, it gave me a much greater understanding of how Git actually works. So highly recommend this. Other resources, I've got some online articles and tutorials here. Atlassian has some really nice, clear Git tutorials that I loved. There's an article by Kyle Neath called Designing GitHub for Mac. This doesn't really teach you anything about using the client specifically, but really what it talks about is the design decisions that he made and that the GitHub team made as they started designing their client. So you get an idea of why certain features are there, why others aren't, how the UI was designed, and how user experience was thought of as it was designed. If you read that, you'll have a better understanding of how the client works and why it does what it does. There's another guy who works a lot like me in terms of those aha moments, and his name is Khalid Azad. He has an article, of aha moments that he had while he was learning Git as well. I also have some references and cheat sheets, GitHub's help page, GitHub official glossary, the official Git reference, a quick Git reference that was put together by some of the guys that work for Git, and then a Git cheat sheet that essentially gives you just some basic commands to run for specific tasks. Also, be sure to check out all the other web design and development related titles in the lynda.com online training library. It's a huge resource. There are hundreds of titles available, and you can certainly go beyond what we learned in this course by going through some of those titles. I also would like to invite you to follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is JamesWillWebb. I'm really active on Twitter, and that's probably the best place to communicate with me. So if you want to reach out to me, let me know how you're doing with GitHub. I'd love to hear from you. So again, that's twitter.com, JamesWillWebb. Well, thanks very much, everybody. As always, I really appreciate you watching. I hope you had a great time with this course. I know I had a great time writing and recording it, and I will see you in my next title.